time for us as women. We're the only species that the Creator granted us with the ability to naturally purify every 28 days. Think about that. That's powerful, and that's a responsibility. It's a responsibility that we all have as women, as mothers, as grandmothers, as aunties, as daughters, as wives, as sisters. My late husband often spoke to patriarchy versus matriarchy. For 40 years, he tried to open the hearts, turn the lights on with our people, with the indigenous peoples of the Western Hemisphere. He was part of that original delegation that went to the United Nations, Geneva, Switzerland, September 1977. The old people, we still had our old people who had never been to a European school. They were still thinking and operating in a beautiful way that we know as connecting the brain with the heart. When you're making decisions with that connection, they're going to be honest, they're going to be pure, they're going to be powerful, they're going to be balanced. These old people gathered in Standing Rock. In 1974, there were over 5,000 of us. And they were given mandates. The American Indian Movement was a young organization. They had lit a fire across Turtle Island. The old people knew that we needed a political arm, an international arm. We needed a seat at the table of nations. So they went. And in September 2007, the Declaration of Rights for Indigenous Peoples was passed. This declaration didn't tie any dollar amount to it. There was no commitment other than acknowledging us as human beings. And yet America, Canada, New Zealand, and Australia refused to sign that document. This is 2007. We're in the 21st century. Under political pressure over the next several years, one by one, they were coerced, embarrassed into signing this document. This is the ongoing racism. This is the attack that we're still under on all levels. From raping our grandmother to not even acknowledging us as human. This is what we have been up against. This is the oppression, repression, suppression that goes on in this world today. This is why this point in our recent history is so crucial. And in order to heal, we've got to acknowledge these truths. We have to put them on the table. We have to have dialogue so we can let it go and move forward. And we can do this now because we're in the fifth world with the heightened energy. And our brothers and sisters are ready to hear us. They're asking us. Unfortunately, it's the 11th hour, but there's enough of us that are awakened. And a lot of us are women. We as women have been oppressed for 6,000 years, longer than any other race of people. So we have a responsibility now. And it's very simple. We have to start with ourselves. We have forgotten how to nurture ourselves. We have been trying to maintain a balance with our male counterpart. So we continue to overextend. We continue to compromise. And some of us have gotten confused because the patriarch, you look at his governmental structures, you look at his educational institutions, you look at his organized religions, you look at all of his structures, and they're top down. We have no balance with those systems. So they eventually implode from within. And this was one of Russell's messages that he took to the world. In fact, he said, if you want to know what the United States of America, the belly of the beast, what their tactics are, take a look at the page of our history. These policies were first bred and born in Indian country. They were exported to the world, and now they're on the backs of the American people. They didn't live up to Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution that validates our treaties as international documents. What makes you think they're going to honor the U.S. Constitution that is actually designed to keep the U.S. government in check? Because we are sovereigns. We have those rights. They're inherent rights. And look what you've done. You've allowed your rogue government to usurp your rights, one after another, year after year. We come from a people with a beautiful worldview because it doesn't begin with us and it doesn't end with us. Everything in the universe is holy, sacred, and round. The planets, the stars, the moon, the sun, the raindrops, the human form. We've got to grab a hold of these truths. We've got to grab a hold of our children. That's our greatest responsibility as women. Why have we thrown them away? Why are we allowing the system to put our future leaders on Retland? Why are we lining up in those clinics for antidepressants? Why are we allowing our agriculture to be destroyed with genetically modified organisms? Why are we allowing this? Water is sacred. It's our lifeblood. Look what they've done to it. We need help. And we need unity. We need to come together to survive. Because Grandmother the Earth is evolving. She's cleansing. She's tired of all of the disease. And it's very simple. We get on board, or we too cross over. This new energy, it's powerful. It's your thoughts. That's the first step in creation, is what you're thinking. Be careful what you're thinking, because you're creating it. We can open our hearts. We have this perfect DNA. We come in with this beautiful blueprint. Let's remember it. And when we awaken and we become fully connected, like is going to attract like. It's part of the natural, universal laws of the universe. One by one, start with yourself, your family, your clan, your community, your nation, and then the world on out to infinity. I remember my husband sharing this very beautiful analogy. In the early 80s, he and other Lakota reclaimed a portion of their holy land, the Black Hills, the Hisapa, their point of emergence. Incidentally, when the first aerials were taken of the Black Hills, the image came back as a heart. The Lakota called it the heartbeat of the people. Russell often spoke of those years. He spent 8 seasons living in a teepee, living off the land, taking a dip in that sacred cold pool of water. He said one day he was sitting next to a pine tree, and his first thought was, years from now, a white man would come along, an anthropologist, and say, look at these idyllic people wasting time. They called our contemplating wasting time. In any event, he tossed a pebble in that still lake. And then he watched the ripple effect. The first circle. He began to realize that rock represented his heart. The first circle represented his immediate family. The next, his Tioshpai. Then his community, his nation, His people